You are standing between me and my own front door." Danielle Harper spoke with such calm precision that Officer Nathan Brooks paused, but only for a moment. He remained on the brick porch of the Alexandria townhouse, positioned between Danielle and the open doorway behind her, one hand resting near the restraints on his duty belt. Grocery bags sat beside the welcome mat. A bouquet of yellow flowers leaned against the railing. The key Danielle had used was still inside the lock, and the hallway light glowed warmly beyond the threshold. Everything about the scene looked ordinary except for the suspicion Nathan had carried onto the porch. "Until I confirm who you are not going back inside," he said. Danielle looked directly at the red light on his body camera. "You have my driver's license. The address matches this house." Nathan held the license but did not return it. "Identification can be outdated. My name is printed on the packages beside your feet. Packages do not establish residency." Danielle raised her telephone so the screen remained visible. The smart lock application displayed her name, address, and the time the door had opened. "This account controls the lock." Nathan glanced at it. "Someone else could have given you access." Across the street, Martin Caldwell stood near a black sedan, recording the encounter with his telephone. He was the neighborhood association president and the man who had called police. He had told dispatch that a suspicious black woman was attempting to enter a home whose owner was away. He had not seen a damaged lock. He had not heard an alarm. He had not spoken to Danielle before making the call. Yet Nathan had treated his statement as credible before asking a single question about what he had actually witnessed. Danielle noticed Caldwell's satisfied expression and felt the language of the call settle into place. Unauthorized person. Possible burglary. Owner believed absent. The phrases sounded almost identical to complaints her office had recently reviewed involving 3 black families in the same neighborhood. "Officer Brooks," she said, "has the caller claimed this is his property? That is not relevant right now. Has anyone identified themselves as the homeowner other than me?" Nathan's jaw tightened. "You are making a simple investigation more difficult." Danielle kept her hands visible. "Then make it simple. State for your camera whether you see a broken lock, a damaged window, forced entry, or any person inside asking for help." Nathan looked toward the doorway. There was no damage, no alarm, no frightened resident. Only a framed photograph on the entry table, showing Danielle standing in the same house with her mother. "Step off the porch," he ordered. "Why?" "Because I am securing the possible crime scene." Danielle did not move. "You have not identified a crime." Nathan reached toward the restraints. "Do not force me to detain you." The porch became silent. Even Caldwell lowered his telephone slightly, waiting for the moment he believed would remove Danielle from the property. Then Nathan's radio crackled. A dispatcher's voice cut through the stillness. "Unit 12, hold your position. Property records have been confirmed." Nathan pressed the radio button. "Go ahead with the registered owner." There was a brief pause. Danielle watched his expression, not because she needed the answer, but because she wanted the body camera to preserve exactly when the facts stopped being negotiable. "The registered owner is Danielle Harper," the dispatcher said. Nathan looked at the license in his hand, then back at Danielle. "Confirm date of birth." Dispatch provided it. It matched. Nathan still did not step aside. "There could be another person with the same name," he said. Danielle's voice remained level. "You are moving the standard because every answer proves you wrong." Another voice came over the radio, this one belonging to Sergeant Elena Ruiz. "Officer Brooks, do not take further action. I am approaching your location." Nathan looked toward the street as a supervisor's vehicle turned the corner. The dispatcher continued, unaware that nearly every curtain in the neighborhood had shifted. Additional identity confirmation. Danielle Harper is the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. Nathan's hand moved away from the restraints. Danielle finally reached into her briefcase and removed her federal credential. She held it beside the driver's license he had already refused to trust. "This proves what I do," she said. "My key and my license already proved where I live." 35 minutes earlier, Danielle Harper turned onto the narrow, tree-lined street in Alexandria after a long Friday at the federal courthouse. The late afternoon sun rested against the brick townhouses, warming the white door frames and casting long shadows across the sidewalk. Her dark sedan moved slowly past parked cars, delivery vans, and neighbors carrying groceries inside before the weekend. Danielle had lived in the neighborhood for 3 months, long enough to recognize most faces, but not long enough for everyone to accept that she belonged there. She parked beneath a maple tree and sat quietly for a moment, looking at the house she had worked years to purchase. It was not the largest home on the block. It did not have marble columns, iron gates, or anything designed to impress strangers. To Danielle, its value came from the woman who had lived there before her. Mrs. Lorraine Watkins had been a retired public school teacher facing an aggressive housing scheme when Danielle first met her nearly a decade earlier. A development company had pressured Lorraine to sell below market value, using confusing notices, repeated inspections, and anonymous complaints to make remaining in the neighborhood feel impossible. Danielle had represented her before becoming United States Attorney, and the case had taught her that a home could be taken without anyone breaking down the door. Sometimes all it required was enough pressure to make the owner feel unwelcome. After Lorraine died, her family offered Danielle the opportunity to purchase the townhouse. She accepted, not as an investment, but as a promise that the place would remain a home rather than become another property swallowed by speculation. Danielle stepped from the car, wearing a charcoal business coat over a navy dress. She carried 2 grocery bags, a bouquet of yellow flowers for her mother, and a sealed briefcase containing documents she planned to review after dinner. Her mother was arriving the next morning, and Danielle had promised to cook instead of ordering takeout from the restaurant near her office. As she approached the porch, the doorbell camera activated with a soft chime. She set the flowers beside the railing, unlocked the front door with her key, and entered the security code on the smart lock. Across the street, Martin Caldwell watched from beside his black sedan. He had walked past Danielle's house twice that afternoon, once at 3:15 and again shortly before she arrived. The doorbell camera had captured him photographing her front steps, her mailbox, and the license plate on her parked car. Danielle did not see the earlier visits, but she noticed him now. Caldwell was president of the Neighborhood Association and the owner of Caldwell Urban Development, a company that had recently sent purchase offers to several black homeowners on the block. Danielle had declined his offer without discussion. 2 weeks later, the association began questioning whether renovations inside her house had been properly approved, even though no renovations had occurred. Caldwell lifted his telephone as Danielle opened the door. He spoke while looking directly at her. Danielle carried 1 grocery bag inside, then returned for the second. Before she could reach it, a patrol car entered the street and stopped beside the curb. Officer Nathan Brooks stepped out, already scanning the house as a possible crime scene. Caldwell crossed the street and pointed toward Danielle. "That is the woman," he said. "The owner is not supposed to be home." Danielle looked from Caldwell to Nathan, then toward the open doorway behind her. "I am the owner," she said. Nathan did not ask Caldwell how he knew otherwise. He did not check the doorbell camera or the property records. He only looked at Danielle, the open door, and the expensive briefcase beside the groceries. "Ma'am, step away from the entrance and show me identification." Danielle slowly set the grocery bag down. The flowers remained against the railing. The key remained in the lock. Her name remained on the packages by the welcome mat. Yet before Nathan asked a single question about Caldwell's claim, he had already decided which person on the porch needed to prove she belonged. Nathan Brooks held out his hand for identification, while Martin Caldwell remained near the sidewalk, watching with the quiet confidence of someone who expected his version of events to control the scene. Danielle Harper kept both hands visible and told Nathan that her driver's license was inside the briefcase beside the groceries. She asked permission before reaching for it. Nathan nodded, but his posture remained rigid as she opened the case, removed a slim wallet, and handed him the license. He read her name, date of birth, and the address printed beneath her photograph. Every detail matched the townhouse behind her. "How long have you lived here?" he asked. 3 months. "Who lived here before you?" "Lorraine Watkins." Caldwell stepped closer. "That is the name I remember. I never heard anything about a sale." Danielle turned toward him. "You sent me a purchase offer 2 months ago." Caldwell's expression barely changed. "My office sends letters to many homeowners." "Then you knew someone new owned the property." Nathan raised one hand between them. "I will ask the questions." Danielle looked at his body camera. "Then ask him why he told dispatch the owner was away." Nathan glanced toward Caldwell, but instead of questioning the caller, he examined Danielle's license again. This could have been updated without a complete property transfer. Danielle pointed toward the packages beside the welcome mat. Each one displayed her full name and address. My utility bill is inside. The smart lock account is on my telephone. The deed is available through the city property database. Nathan looked through the open doorway. The entry table held framed photographs, unopened mail, and a pair of women's shoes beside the stairs. Do you have anyone inside who can confirm you live here? I live alone. Caldwell spoke before Nathan could continue. She could have collected information about the house. People research vacant properties all the time. Danielle studied him. The language was too polished, too ready. You said the owner was away. Now you were saying the house might be vacant. Which story did you give dispatch? Caldwell's jaw tightened. Nathan stepped closer to the doorway and told Danielle to remain outside while he secured the residence. You do not have my permission to enter, she said. I am investigating a possible burglary. There is no broken lock, no damaged window, no alarm, and no person claiming I entered their home. Your cooperation will make this faster. Danielle held up the telephone, displaying the smart lock application. Her name appeared above the property address, along with a record showing that her personal code had opened the door minutes earlier. Nathan looked at the screen, then at the key still resting in the lock. Access can be shared. So can accusations, Danielle replied. Caldwell lifted his telephone and continued recording from the sidewalk. Danielle noticed the satisfaction returning to his face whenever Nathan dismissed another piece of evidence. She remembered 3 complaints reviewed by her office during the previous month. In each one, a black homeowner had been described as an unauthorized person. In each one, the caller claimed the actual owner was unavailable. In each one, a development company had contacted the family shortly afterward with another offer to purchase the home. Nathan asked Danielle to step down from the porch. She complied with one step, but refused to leave her property. State for your camera what crime you have personally observed, she said. I do not need to debate procedure with you. Then state whether the caller owns this house. Nathan looked toward Caldwell. Mr. Caldwell, do you own or manage this property? Caldwell hesitated. No, but I represent the neighborhood association. The answer changed nothing for Nathan. He returned his attention to Danielle and said he needed to verify her identity through dispatch. Danielle nodded toward the license in his hand. You already have my identity. What you have not verified is his claim. Nathan reached for his radio. As he requested a property record search, Danielle watched Caldwell send a message from his telephone. Seconds later, a black sedan parked farther down the street started its engine. Someone had been waiting, and the encounter on her porch was beginning to look less like a misunderstanding and more like a plan. The black sedan pulled away from the curb before Nathan could identify the driver, leaving only a brief reflection of the afternoon sun across its rear window. Danielle watched it disappear at the end of the block, then looked back at Martin Caldwell. He lowered his telephone as though nothing unusual had happened. Nathan continued speaking into his radio, requesting confirmation of the property owner, but his eyes remained fixed on Danielle instead of the man whose story had already changed twice. Who was in that car? Danielle asked. Caldwell shrugged. People come and go. It started moving the moment you sent a message. That does not concern you. Danielle turned toward Nathan. It should concern you. Nathan released the radio button. Right now, my concern is verifying whether you have lawful access to this residence. Danielle felt the weight of the sentence settle over the porch. Lawful access. She had opened the door with her key. Her name matched the license in his hand. Her packages rested beside the welcome mat. Her smart lock account displayed the address. Still, every fact became another object to doubt. My utility account is inside the house, she said. I can show it to you without leaving your sight. Nathan shook his head. You are not going back inside until this is resolved. Then use the city database from your patrol car. Dispatch is working on it. Ask the caller to provide the name of the person he believes owns this house. Caldwell answered before Nathan could question him. Lorraine Watkins. Danielle studied him. Lorraine died last year. Caldwell looked away for the first time. I was not aware of that. You sent a purchase offer to me at this address after I bought the house. My company sends automated mail. Your signature was on it. Nathan stepped between them again. Enough. Mr. Caldwell is not the person being investigated. Danielle looked directly at the red light on his body camera. That is exactly the problem. A breeze moved through the street, stirring the yellow flowers beside the railing. One of the grocery bags tipped slightly, and an orange rolled across the brick porch until it stopped near Nathan's boot. He glanced down but did not move it. Danielle noticed curtains shifting in nearby windows. Several neighbors were watching. None of them came outside. She understood why. People often convinced themselves that silence was neutrality, especially when the person being questioned did not look like them. "Officer Brooks," she said, "please state for the recording whether you see any sign of forced entry." Nathan exhaled slowly. "I see an open door and conflicting claims." "There are no conflicting claims. I say I own the house. He says he does not own it." Nathan's jaw tightened. "Your tone is becoming argumentative." "My tone is controlled. Your standard keeps changing." Caldwell raised his telephone again. Danielle heard him whisper that she was refusing to cooperate. The phrase struck her with sudden clarity. Refusing to cooperate. Unauthorized person. Owner unavailable. The same sequence had appeared in 3 reports reviewed by her office. Different addresses. Different officers. The same language. The same development company contacting families afterward. Danielle stopped trying to persuade Nathan. Instead, she began preserving the moment. "Please confirm that I gave you a driver's license matching this address." Nathan did not answer. "Please confirm that my key opened the door." He remained silent. "Please confirm that the smart lock account displayed my name and this property." "You do not control this investigation." "No," Danielle said, "but the camera records it." Nathan looked toward Caldwell, then back toward Danielle, as though deciding whether her knowledge made her more credible or more suspicious. "Step off the porch completely," he ordered. Danielle took one measured step onto the walkway, but kept her hands visible. "I am complying with your instruction. Now state the reason." "Possible unlawful entry." "Based on what specific fact?" Nathan paused. Caldwell answered for him. "Because she should not be here." Danielle turned toward the body camera. There it was. Not evidence. Not ownership. Not a damaged door or a frightened resident. Only the belief that a black woman did not belong behind that door. Nathan reached toward the restraints on his belt, and Danielle understood that the next choice he made would become more important than every explanation he had already ignored. Danielle watched Nathan's hands settle near the restraints, but her voice remained even. "Before you make that decision, state the specific facts supporting it." Nathan looked toward Martin Caldwell, who stood near the curb with his telephone raised. "You are refusing to follow instructions. I stepped off the porch when you told me to. I gave you identification. I showed you the smart lock account. My key opened the door. Which instruction did I refuse?" Nathan did not answer. The red light on his body camera continued to glow. Danielle knew that silence could become evidence when placed beside a question clear enough to expose it. "Please confirm that the caller does not own this house," she said. "Please confirm that he has not identified any damaged lock, broken window, alarm, or resident asking for help. Please confirm that the address on my license matches the property behind you." Nathan's expression hardened. "You are trying to control the encounter. I am making sure the record is complete." Caldwell stepped forward. "She is a lawyer. You can tell by the way she talks. People like that know how to manipulate these situations." Danielle turned toward him. "How do you know what I do?" Caldwell hesitated. It lasted less than a second, but she saw it. Nathan saw it too. "I do not," Caldwell said. It was a guess. Danielle looked at the black sedan disappearing in the distance, then at the message screen still open on Caldwell's telephone. "Was the person in that car connected to your company?" Caldwell lowered the device. "This is becoming harassment." Nathan moved his hand away from the restraints long enough to press his radio. "Dispatch, status on the property search." Static answered first. Then the dispatcher said the municipal database was loading slowly and asked him to hold. Danielle used the delay. "Officer Brooks," asked dispatch to preserve the original call audio. Nathan frowned. "Why?" "Because the caller said the owner was away. He also named a former owner who died last year. Those details matter. That determination is not yours to make." "No, but preserving evidence is your responsibility." Caldwell took another step toward the sidewalk. Danielle pointed without raising her voice. "He is leaving." Nathan glanced over. "Mr. Caldwell, remain available." Caldwell stopped, irritated now rather than confident. The shift told Danielle more than his words had. He had expected the call to move quickly. A suspicious woman. A cooperative officer. A removal from the property. Perhaps a report describing the house as vulnerable or occupied by someone unauthorized. Instead, The scene was slowing down, and every minute created another record. Nathan looked back at Danielle. Do you have any other identification? The question was quiet, almost casual, but it carried the full weight of the moving standard. Danielle held his gaze. You have government-issued identification with this address. Why is that not enough? I am asking whether you have something else. Something that proves what? Nathan paused. That you are who you say you are. My driver's license proves that. Another card could help. Danielle understood exactly what he wanted without knowing it. A credential. A title. Something powerful enough to replace the ordinary proof he had already dismissed. She could have ended the encounter in seconds. Her federal identification was inside the briefcase. One card, one seal, one title that would change his tone, but that would also change the lesson. No, she said. You will complete the same verification you should complete for any homeowner. Nathan's eyes narrowed. You are choosing to make this difficult. Danielle looked directly into the body camera. No, I am choosing not to use status to purchase the fairness my documents should already provide. The radio crackled again. This time Sergeant Elena Ruiz spoke before dispatch. Officer Brooks, do not restrain anyone. I am 2 minutes away. Preserve the scene and preserve the caller. Caldwell's face lost color. Nathan stared at the radio, then at Danielle. She remained still on the walkway, the yellow flowers leaning against the porch behind her, the groceries warming in the afternoon sun. The house had never changed. The key had never changed. The address had never changed. Only the authority attached to her name was about to become visible. Sergeant Elena Ruiz arrived without sirens, stopping her patrol vehicle near the curb before stepping into the afternoon heat. She was 42, composed, and immediately attentive to the details other people had treated as background. The open front door, the groceries on the porch, the flowers against the railing, Danielle standing on the walkway with her hands visible, Martin Caldwell near the sidewalk with his telephone, Nathan holding a driver's license that matched the address behind him. Elena approached without raising her voice. Officer Brooks, give me a factual summary. Nathan began with the dispatch call. Possible unlawful entry. Suspicious person. Homeowner believed absent. Elena interrupted gently. What did you personally observe? Nathan looked toward the doorway. The door was open when I arrived. Any damage? No. Any alarm? No. Any person inside claiming she did not belong here? Nathan hesitated. No. Elena turned to Danielle. Ma'am, are you the person identified on that license? Yes. Did your key open the door? Yes. Does the SmartLock account display your name and this address? It does. Elena looked at Caldwell. Mr. Caldwell, do you own, manage, rent, or hold any legal interest in this property? Caldwell shifted his weight. I represent the neighborhood association. That was not my question. No, what specific crime did you witness? He looked toward Danielle, then back at Elena. She was entering a house where I did not believe she belonged. Did you see her force the door? No. Did you see her break a window? No. Did anyone ask you to monitor the property? Caldwell's silence answered before his words did. Not exactly. Elena asked Nathan for the original call number, then instructed dispatch to preserve the recording and all associated notes. She requested the property search again. The response came more quickly this time. Registered owner is Danielle Harper. Purchase recorded 3 months ago. Mailing address matches the location. Elena held out her hand. Nathan gave her the license. She compared the photograph, date of birth, and address. Everything matched. Officer Brooks, why is she still outside? Nathan looked at Danielle, then at Caldwell. I wanted additional identity confirmation. Elena's eyes narrowed slightly. You have it. Nathan lowered his voice. There could be another person with the same name. Danielle did not react. She had expected the standard to move one final time. Elena pressed the radio button. Dispatch, provide complete identity confirmation for Danielle Harper. There was a pause long enough for the street to become quiet. A lawn sprinkler clicked somewhere behind the houses. A delivery truck turned at the far end of the block. Then the dispatcher spoke. Danielle Harper is confirmed as the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. Nathan's posture changed before his expression did. His shoulders loosened. His hand moved farther from his duty belt. His voice lost the edge it had carried since arriving. Ma'am, why did you not say that earlier? Danielle opened her briefcase and removed a federal credential. She held it beside the driver's license he had already examined. Because my title does not own this house. I do. Nathan stared at the two forms of identification. One had been enough from the beginning. The other merely made him willing to accept it. Elena looked at him. Return her license. Nathan did so. Danielle took it without triumph. The key opened the door. The address matched. The caller did not own the property. Nothing about those facts changed when you heard my job. Nathan looked toward his body camera, suddenly aware that it had recorded every question, every answer, and every shifting explanation. Caldwell began stepping backward. Elena noticed. Mr. Caldwell, remain here. Federal title or not, this call requires review. Danielle turned toward him. Especially because this is not the first call that sounds like yours. Caldwell stopped. For the first time that afternoon, the confidence left his face. Nathan had finally learned who stood before him. But Danielle had just realized the more dangerous question was who had been standing behind the accusation. Rachel Kim arrived 10 minutes later with Special Agent Marcus Bell from the Department of Housing and Urban Development Office of Inspector General. Rachel was Danielle's chief assistant, and the expression on her face changed the moment she saw Martin Caldwell standing beside the patrol vehicles. She had seen his name before, not in a headline, not in a courtroom filing, in a pattern. 3 black families within a half-mile of Danielle's home had reported nearly identical encounters during the previous 6 months. A neighbor or association representative called police. The homeowner was described as unauthorized. The caller claimed the actual owner was unavailable. Within days, Caldwell Urban Development sent another purchase offer. Each offer arrived after the family had been embarrassed, questioned, or made to feel watched on their own property. Rachel approached Danielle, but did not embrace her or ask whether she was all right. They both understood that the scene had become evidence. Did the caller identify himself? Rachel asked. Danielle nodded toward Caldwell. Martin Caldwell. He named Lorraine Watkins as the owner, even though his company mailed an offer to me after the sale. Marcus Bell opened a small notebook. Did he witness forced entry? No, Elena said. He does not own or manage the property. The homeowner presented matching identification, a working key, smart lock records, and packages bearing her name. Nathan stood several feet away, listening as the facts were repeated without the assumptions he had placed around them. Caldwell lifted his chin. This is being exaggerated because of who she is. Danielle turned toward him. You did not know who I was when you called. I saw someone entering a home under suspicious circumstances. You saw the owner using her key. Caldwell looked toward Nathan as though expecting support, but Nathan did not speak. Rachel asked Elena whether the original emergency call had been preserved. Elena confirmed that dispatch had saved the audio, notes, timestamps, and caller information. Danielle then pointed toward her doorbell camera. It recorded him walking past the house twice before I arrived. It also recorded him photographing the mailbox and my license plate. Caldwell's face tightened. Neighborhood security is part of my responsibility. Photographing a resident's property is not the same as protecting it, Marcus said. Who was driving the black sedan? Caldwell gave no answer. Rachel exchanged a look with Marcus. Investigators had already connected a black sedan registered to an employee of Caldwell Urban Development with 2 earlier visits to homes that later received purchase offers. The car leaving at the moment Caldwell sent a message did not prove a conspiracy by itself, but it gave them a reason to preserve his communications. Rachel spoke quietly to Danielle. The language matches the other calls. Danielle knew exactly what she meant. Unauthorized person. Owner believed absent. Refusing to cooperate. Phrases that sounded spontaneous until they appeared again and again in the same order. Nathan looked toward his body camera. He used those words before I arrived, he said. Elena turned to him. Did dispatch relay them directly? Yes. I treated them as verified facts. That admission changed the atmosphere. It did not erase what Nathan had done, but it gave investigators a clear record of how Caldwell's language had shaped the encounter before Danielle spoke. Marcus asked Nathan to describe Caldwell's behavior. Nathan answered carefully. He volunteered explanations before I questioned him. He discouraged me from accepting her documents. He said she should not be there, but he never identified a crime. Caldwell stepped toward his car. Elena raised one hand. You are free to leave, but your statement and contact information will be documented. Rachel added, and you should preserve all messages, call records, photographs, and communications related to this address and the other homeowners. Caldwell stopped beside the driver's door. "Are you threatening me?" "No," Danielle said. "I am telling you that the truth has a paper trail." Caldwell looked at the body cameras, the doorbell camera, and the investigators now standing where he had expected only one patrol officer. He had called the police believing suspicion would remove Danielle from her porch. Instead, the call had placed his own pattern under federal review. By Monday morning, every recording from the encounter had been secured inside 2 separate investigations. The federal team reviewed Caldwell's emergency call, his messages, the doorbell footage, and the purchase offers sent to black homeowners across the neighborhood. The Alexandria Police Department opened its own administrative review of Nathan's decisions. He entered the interview room wearing his uniform, but his badge and access card rested on the table instead of his chest. Sergeant Elena Ruiz sat across from him with an internal affairs investigator, while a large monitor displayed the first minutes of his body camera footage. Nathan watched himself approach Danielle's porch. He heard Caldwell describe her as an intruder before anyone had checked the property records. He watched Danielle present a driver's license with the correct address. He watched himself dismiss the packages, the working key, the smart lock account, and the absence of damage. Each fact had been visible. Each one had been treated as insufficient. The investigator stopped the recording. "At what point did you believe she might be the homeowner?" Nathan looked at the frozen image of Danielle standing beside her groceries. "When I read the address on her license." "Then why did the detention continue?" Nathan first said he wanted additional confirmation. The investigator asked what specific conflict required it. Nathan mentioned Caldwell's statement. Elena reminded him that Caldwell did not own the property and had not witnessed unlawful entry. Nathan then said Danielle knew too much about procedure. The investigator leaned forward. Did her knowledge make the evidence less reliable? Nathan looked down at his hands. "No," the monitor resumed. Danielle's voice filled the room, calm and exact, asking him to identify a broken lock, a damaged window, an alarm, or a resident requesting help. Nathan watched himself avoid every question. Then came the moment when he asked for another form of identification. The investigator stopped the recording again. What would another card have proven that the license, key, address, and property records had not? Nathan had no answer. For several seconds, the only sound was the low hum of the ventilation system. Elena placed a blank report form on the table. Caldwell claims Ms. Harper refused to cooperate and attempted to use her position to intimidate you. Your body camera shows something different. You need to decide whether your report protects his version or records what happened. Nathan stared at the form. The convenient version was already waiting for him. He could describe the call as confusing, the homeowner as argumentative, and his actions as cautious. He could hide behind procedure and write around the truth without making a statement that was technically false. But the camera had preserved the distance between caution and prejudice. It had recorded how the standard changed every time Danielle satisfied it. Nathan picked up the pen. "She cooperated," he said. "She followed my instructions. Her identification matched the address. Her key worked. The caller had no legal connection to the house." The investigator asked the final question. "Why did you continue treating her as suspicious?" Nathan looked toward the screen, where Danielle stood outside her own home while Caldwell remained unquestioned near the curb. "Because I accepted his assumption before I examined the facts. When the facts contradicted it, I kept searching for a reason not to believe her." Elena did not praise him. Honesty after harm was necessary, but it was not redemption by itself. Nathan was placed on administrative duty and temporarily relieved of patrol responsibilities while the department completed its review. His truthful statement was forwarded to the federal investigators because it confirmed how Caldwell's words had shaped the police response. Later that afternoon, Rachel Kim called Danielle with an update. Search warrants had not been requested yet, but investigators had identified repeated messages between Caldwell and employees assigned to photograph homes owned by families who rejected purchase offers. The pattern was no longer invisible. Danielle stood inside her kitchen as the flowers from Friday rested in a glass vase near the window. Her home was quiet again, but the silence felt different. Caldwell had tried to turn suspicion into pressure. Nathan had nearly helped him do it. Now the same records created to question Danielle were beginning to reveal the people who had planned the question. 3 months later, The same neighborhood gathered inside a community hall less than half a mile from Danielle Harper's townhouse. Folding chairs filled the room. Homeowners sat beside police supervisors, city attorneys, housing advocates, and residents who had once watched similar encounters from behind closed curtains. The federal investigation had uncovered a coordinated pattern. Martin Caldwell's company had tracked families who rejected purchase offers, photographed their homes, shared schedules, and encouraged complaints designed to make those families feel watched, questioned, and unwelcome. Several emergency calls used nearly identical language. The callers described Black homeowners as unauthorized people. They claimed owners were absent. They repeated concerns that could not be supported by damage, witnesses, or any verified crime. Investigators found that new purchase offers often followed within days. Caldwell denied that the calls were part of a strategy, but the messages, timestamps, photographs, and recorded conversations told a more complete story. His company became the subject of federal housing and false reporting investigations, and the neighborhood association removed him from leadership. The Alexandria Police Department completed its separate review and found that Nathan Brooks had ignored multiple facts that should have ended the encounter within minutes. He was disciplined, removed from patrol duties, and required to complete extensive retraining before any future return to street assignment could be considered. His truthful report helped expose Caldwell's methods, but the department made clear that cooperation after the fact did not erase the decisions recorded on his body camera. Sergeant Elena Ruiz helped write a new response policy for suspicious person calls involving homes and private property. Officers now had to determine whether the caller had any legal connection to the location, identify specific evidence of unlawful conduct, document facts that supported innocence as carefully as facts that supported suspicion, and contact a supervisor before extending a detention when identification, access records, and property data matched. The policy was practical, but Danielle knew rules alone could not repair every harm. When she stood before the room, she did not begin by introducing herself as United States Attorney. She began as a homeowner. A front door should not become a courtroom because the person holding the key is Black, she said. The room became still. No citizen should need a federal credential before an officer respects a valid license, a working key, and the absence of a crime. My title changed the tone that afternoon, but it did not change the truth. I belonged there before anyone knew what office I held. Several families nodded. They understood that the most frightening part had never been one officer or one caller. It was how easily an unsupported accusation could become more powerful than visible evidence. After the meeting, Nathan waited near the exit. He wore a plain suit and carried no badge. Danielle stopped several feet away. I wrote the report honestly, he said. I know, she replied. I should have believed the facts sooner. Yes. He lowered his eyes. I am sorry. Danielle did not offer easy forgiveness, but neither did she turn the moment into punishment. Then make sure the next person does not need my title to be heard. Nathan nodded. That evening, Danielle returned home as the last light settled over the brick row houses. She carried a small bag of groceries up the same walkway. The yellow flowers from that Friday were gone, but the welcome mat remained. She placed her key in the lock. It turned easily, exactly as it had before. Across the street, no one raised a telephone. No patrol car waited at the curb. Danielle stepped inside and left the porch light on. He had demanded proof that she belonged behind her own door. In the end, the truth revealed that the real trespass was the prejudice brought onto her porch.